Alright, this video is going to cover the installation of this bumper that I purchased for my 800XC. Pretty straightforward installation. Need a bumper, of course, which comes with a couple of brackets, 4 of these button head bolts. You're going to want a 13mm and a 15mm socket and a 4mm Allen driver for the button head bolts. Now, this is a pretty straightforward installation. We only need to remove 4 bolts. We're going to take the 2 out of the winch fair lead and 2 out of the rack. The first thing that we're going to want to do, reach back here and set your winch to free spool and pull yourself out a little bit of slack on this because we're going to be removing this. That's probably good. The next thing, take off this cover so we can access the 2 top mounting bolts up here. Now, we're going to want to loosen and remove the bolts for the fair lead, which I've already loosened. Now with our 13mm socket, we're going to remove these 2 bolts here. Hopefully you can see that. Like I said, I've already loosened these up just to make the video go a little faster. Take those out, set them there. Get our brackets ready. This one. Get our bolts ready. Now, what I found is that you don't need to completely remove the rack, just leave it loose. What we've got to do is slide this up underneath the bracket here. So just slip it up here, up underneath here, lift the bracket up, and line the holes up so you can put the bolt back in. Nice and easy. Don't tighten any of these bolts yet. We're going to need some room for final fitment. And you want to leave a pretty good gap here so that we can lift the rack to get the bracket on the other side in. Alright, hopefully you can see there's a little gap there. The idea is to get this bracket to line up underneath there, just like that. It should just slide right in there. There we go. So the easiest way that I found to do this was to grab the bumper, line it up, get these brackets lined up, just hold it. I'm holding it with my knee, and then I'm going to put 1 bolt in here. I'll give you a close-up in just a minute. So I've just put 1 bolt in, 1 bolt in this side, keeping it somewhat loose, and now I'm going to reattach the fair lead. So we're just basically hanging here. You want to be kind of careful you don't tear your paint up, but you want to line these slots up with the bolt holes through the fair lead and put the bolts in. It might be easier to have a socket. A little tricky to kind of get it all lined up, but that's why we keep everything somewhat loose until we get all the bolts in. Okay, now we're not real tight, but we're tight enough to make sure that those 2 flat surfaces have come together, and then we will tweak the alignment. Something I want to just add is my experience with bolting on accessories for everything from boats, trucks, and ATVs or power sports stuff. Nothing's really bolt on. There's always going to be a little bit of variance from the manufacturing of the machine to your parts. So you might have to tweak it, pry it, push it a little bit. It's just the way it is. Alright, so at this point what I'm going to do is add the other bolt to the top, and we'll get a bit of an alignment and start tightening things down. Now you may want to put some Loctite on these, just because this is an off-road vehicle and things tend to vibrate loose. In fact, I'm going to do that. I swear, when I turn that camera on, everything but a tugboat goes by. The main thing is, if it's not going in straight, lined up with the threads, don't force it. You'll strip the threads. Alright, so at this point, what you're going to want to do is maybe get a tape measure, maybe a level, and start looking at everything to make sure it's somewhat square. Your distances are the same here. This is setting horizontal or parallel with the machine, and you're just going to have to kind of go and tweak things a little bit to get it as close as you can. And as usual, my 13mm has magically disappeared. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. Of course, I'll probably get it out of my garage. I have a pretty small garage, and I can't step back far enough to really get a good look at it. So you might have to do some tweaking. We'll set our winch back to the locked in position. And there we go. Pretty easy. 4 bolts to remove and replace, and add these. And we got some pretty good protection here. The reason why I purchased this one over the others that I saw is they have these horns that come up, but they're open. And I just don't like that design. Like the factory little bumperette thing here, it really doesn't protect a whole lot. This actually extends past the fender and protects the grill or the lights here. I kind of wish it had a little more here, but that's okay. This is much better than it was. Protect all that frontal plastic. Got some nice little attachment points for accessories. Could even attach something here. Feels pretty rugged. I'm not too worried about pushing brush down. As before, it was all just a plastic front end, kind of like most modern vehicles these days. Alright.